Welcome students to lesson 14. Here we're talking about polynomial and rational functions. Let's take a look at this lesson together. Okay, we're looking in our lesson 14 task list, and we notice we have our advanced organizer. So there's the overview, our assignment, which are the major reading and then the problem assignments. Here's a good additional reading on the graph of polynomials of the zeros, finding an interval that a polynomial function is positive or negative, and that is a lot like those polynomial inequalities. Here we have a rational function, so like 1 over x, so where you have a fraction and you have variables on the top and the bottom. This is talking about asymptotes of rational functions. So remember, the denominator cannot equal to 0. This Khan Academy video on finding horizontal and vertical asymptotes really is a very good video. I urge you to look at it. Here's another reading on graphing rational functions. And I like this next item, which is a video where Sal Khan is trying to describe how to graph a rational function really without doing it on the graphing calculator, and then using the graphing calculator to verify his understanding. The next item is the lesson 14 discussion, and like I said, I'll have this up here by Monday evening, July the 14th, and then your quiz 14. So remember, use your quiz attempts in a way that makes a lot of sense, that helps you gain the understanding of the content and enables you to master the content. Folks, it's really all about learning the material. Now, let's go back to the top and let's take a little bit look at the advanced organizer. Okay, so here we're looking at the title, Polynomial and Rational Functions. This is actually a very good reading of this. Okay, sorry about that typo. We're trying to fix that. But very good, very easy to follow. Here are your expectations. So this is the gist here. Understand the degree and the leading coefficient of a polynomial function. Understand the end behavior. I'll do a part of my introduction video. I'll talk about end behavior. Zeros. Again, I'll talk about that. Determine where the interval is above or below the x-axis, or positive or negative. Remember your quadratic inequalities in a previous lesson. The domain. Okay, so remember there are some domain problems with rational functions, and we need to be mindful of that. And then here we're talking about vertical and horizontal asymptotes. So remember, an asymptote is a line that a function approaches, either a horizontal line or vertical line, and we're going to get a little complex, and we're going to talk about slant asymptotes a little bit in this lesson, but not too deep into that. So know those. Please go through the information that you need to on that, and of course here's your task list. Do your readings, do your assignment problems, complete the discussion, and take your quiz. So that's the overview. And if you notice right here, there's your readings and then your assignment work. They are linked for you. The textbook is a little bit more of a, maybe I should say thorough. Okay, so my advice to you is try to read through the lesson first, get the gist of it, and then go back there and try to get a lot out of that lesson. Now, I do need to share with you that the assignment problems that are being given to you are not the hardest in these sections. So you're not going to have a lot of difficulty with it. However, I would urge you to do the readings, and then the assignment work will be a lot easier. But don't be afraid. You may want to look at some of the assignment work and see if you could do some of the more difficult problems. I may point some out to you. And then these are the two assignment problems. Hope that helps you. All right, here's a little bit of the first reading Of course, we're talking about chapter 3 in this other book, but polynomial functions is the gist here. And the important thing is that you have a pretty good understanding of the definition of a polynomial function. Okay? In other words, this is a very good algebraic or literal or literary or written definition. Sometimes it's a good idea to look at an example. So here's, consider f of x is, this whole polynomial. It's a fifth degree polynomial. Its leading term is 4x to the fifth, and its leading coefficient is 4. Kind of sounds like a leading lady or leading actor in a drama or something like that. But anyway, this is a really good section. Determine which is and which is not a polynomial function. Of course, this one's not, because it would have a rational power. So please take some time and look through this. What else do I want to point out? I'm going to use some of this information here in my introduction video, so please be sure to take a look at that. Okay, again, here's some definitions here. Very good, well-written lesson, so please take notes and make sure you know what you're doing. I want to point out to you a really good application of this is building a box. Of course, in order to find the volume of a box, you need to multiply the width times the depth times the height. And if these all have variable expressions to it, then you're going to get a variable to the third power. And if you notice, in this particular problem, there's an expression. And the expression is written right here. The volume is equal to this times this times this, or this expression, which is a polynomial. So the expression is representing the volume, and it's in terms of the variable x. And this happens to be a polynomial of the third degree with no constant. This is very, very important, and it will help you in understanding the problem. Also notice that the function was graphed, okay? And this is a graph of the function. Of course, the domain is limited, and this value at the top is talking about the maximum. So remember, y is the volume and x is the independent or the domain value that causes the function to have that maximum point. And that could be making a box. It could be something related to making a new cereal box or something like that. Okay, this is end behavior, and I'll be giving you a good treatment of this in my introduction video. This section talks about polynomial functions are continuous. In other words, their curve is smooth, and there's no broken pieces as in a rational function, and that is important to keep in mind. Okay, the intermediate value theorem. This is a way to help us understand there must be a zero in a polynomial function. Please do not get scared by the notation. It's not that bad. It just is a little more involved than maybe you're used to. Now, this part of the reading helps you to identify the positive or negative parts of the function, those that are above the x-axis and those that are below. This is a lot like our quadratic inequalities, and you could follow this method. I'm going to use probably more of a conceptual understanding for you to figure that out at some point in our introduction video. In the reading, your author does use a table of values here, and you could do the same thing on your graphing calculator and use the table feature like I explained in my videos. Now here your author is pointing out to you the shape of the function and what it would look like if it was graphed just based upon test values. Now you are probably like a lot of people and may want to plug in the function into your calculator and look at it. So I'm not saying don't do that, but what I am saying is try to understand the problem and use your calculator. If you need a method, try to analyze the function, then look at your calculator. That may be a good way, but I'm not saying you have to do it that way. Okay, now this section's talking about multiplicity. This section's talking about multiplicity. I'm sorry, I was just kind of joking there. So multiplicity is the number of times you see an answer. For example, here the x is happening 3 times, and here the binomial x minus 3 is happening twice. please look at the introduction video so you understand what the meaning of that actually is. Okay, here you have the introduction of your exercises. As I said before, the assignments for this unit are nothing like the entire possible amount of problems we could give you. Please do those problems and do them well. That will be a very helpful benefit for you. And remember, the concern about remembering how to do this on the final is really based upon learning the material. So just take a little time and you'll be benefited by that. Okay, I like this section where you're trying to graph the functions there, and maybe a good idea to try to do that without the calculator. Okay, here's a whole section of problems that applies what we're talking about, where people are buying or selling an LCD TV. And if you could look at the problems and how they're laid out, and although it may not be a required problem, you may want to take a look at it. A good application about a box and the post office and sending the box to the mail and different requirements and how they are related to the mathematics of the volume. Here's a good application using astronomy. This happens to talk about the daylight hours. By the way, right now, if you look out in the morning, you'll see a super moon, which is a large moon because the moon is closer to us. So a lot of applications of mathematics in the natural world. Folks, this is a tremendous electrifying example in this reading here where it talks about electric circuit, and it also gives you some guidance on making the mathematical model and understanding how to apply it in this problem. So where do we get these formulas from? This shows you how you could find that. That's really, really neat. Now, you may be at a social get-together and you may want to offer some of these questions to your nearest neighbor, number 38. Here's a few questions to discuss with your classmates. Or perhaps you could Facebook somebody. This is exciting, and it may be an interesting opportunity for you. Okay, that was a little bit of that first lesson. The second lesson is a lot like that. Please take your time on that. Now, these other readings are really very, very straightforward. Rational functions, again, if you are not understanding what that's about, look at my introduction video. Again, I mentioned these con videos, and so that is pretty much it. Please look into my report to the class on my office hours on Tuesday if there's any hints I need to give you on quiz 14. All right, folks, this is lesson 14. Some of you guys have been thinking that maybe the lesson's too easy, so this is an opportunity for some of you guys to get some new information. And please remember, I taught you how you could use your calculator. Look at the videos in lesson 13 if you need to. Also, don't overdo the calculator. Don't use the calculator as a crutch. But use a calculator to help you understand the problem. And once you understand math, you get confidence. And I call that real math confidence. Sometimes we operate on what I call fake confidence, and that is not going to do anybody any good. And that's one reason why we don't do well on final exams. So please look at the introduction video. This will be, some of these concepts will be explained to you in a maybe more thorough way. And I wish you well. And don't forget, if you got a question, please contact me. Thank you.